يا هلا 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 حن قلبي على جمعة الخير هلا حن قلبي على جمعة الخير هلا يا هلا ويا هلا ويا هلا ويا هلا يا هلا ويا هلا ويا
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the program. This is Let's Talk with me, Julie Alli. Great to be with you and thank you in advance for keeping us company on this Wednesday morning. On the show, we'll be looking at life being more meaningful and life being worth more than suicide. Maulana Mubarak will be in studio talking about the value of life. We also have a business coach. She's an award-winning influencer, and she's going to talk about knowing your worth and then asking for it. But first up, we're going to be trying to make sense of the madness that's going on in South Africa with political analyst Sandile Ibrahim Malloy. The issues we'll talk to him about is xenophobia. We'll also look at the silence of government, of our president, and how political parties are using this issue to push their own agendas. And we'll try and touch on the death of Mugabe and what that means for Zimbabwe. Ibrahim Malloy, Assalamu alaikum, welcome to the program.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Thank you for having me.
Lovely to have you here. And of course, it's really tough times we're living in. It's just not one issue that we're having to deal with as a country. It's a whole host of issues. And I kind of wonder, how do we prioritize? There's the madness of xenophobia. There's the madness and the sickening acts of femicide. There's also the silence of leaders in government and in society at large. And then last but not least, the passing of Mugabe and what that means not only to Zimbabwe, but the rest of the African continent. Let's start with xenophobia first, the attacks on foreigners. How do we as South Africans make sense of this madness? How do we calm the nation down? And what do you believe has ignited this madness?
Okay, thank you once again for having me. Let me just begin by saying that we really living in real time, difficult times. So we have been experiencing, like I said last week, incidents of violence against women, against foreign nationals, and as well as the person of President Mugabe, of which somehow took the sentiment in the world by surprise. With the issue of xenophobia, it's been an issue that has been going on for years now. And our government has failed to come up with policies, concrete policies to address the problem of xenophobia. And if you recall, in 2008, we had similar incidents where a high number of people died because of the xenophobic attack. So the government has always regarded this as criminal elements, removing them as criminal elements only. So we have to be confident of the fact that the government may have some government to acknowledge that this is an xenophobic attack, and secondly, to acknowledge that the government is the core center of solving this problem. So what led to the xenophobic attack? What led to these attacks, to these racist attacks? We can look at two things. Firstly, the leaders who are using political statements to garner votes, such as, for example, Henry Mashaba, who said there is over 80% of foreign nationals in Johannesburg, CBD alone. And he was also quoting the former Minister of Police, Deputy Minister of Police, Bongani, who said that we have 80% of foreign nationals in Israel alone. So that, I mean, that context somehow, it really went into the space. Why is our system, we have so many places that why this civilians are doing quite well in terms of jobs, in terms of businesses, and yet they are unemployed. So because of that nature, because of that context, we ended up having problems, and we ended up people taking advantage of that statement and attacking other people. However, the biggest problem that we can perhaps speak about is the issue of unemployment in the country. The country, in this country, we said about how that over 30% of unemployment and over 50% of unemployment among young people. So whenever these incidents happen, you find people have not people or and looters who are criminals who want to exploit this by just looking and taking from other people's hardware.
So really it's about acts of criminality, it's acts of frustration, and it's really misdirected at foreigners, because foreigners or immigrants really only make up 7% of the total population of South Africa. It is also said that they in fact create jobs rather than take away jobs from locals. So really fingers need to be pointed at government. They haven't created enough opportunities for young people, and they need to be held account. They need to be held account for the violence and the criminality that we're seeing around us. Infrastructure is crumbling down. The health system is in a mess, and it's not due to foreigners overcrowding our state hospitals. The problem was there even before the foreigners came there for possible medical assistance.
True, I fully agree with you. I think there is a denial from our government that they have not done much from their side in trying to uplift the lives of many people, in particular young people. And also they have not done very much in terms of service delivery. So this all down to service delivery as well. Because whenever there is a service delivery process in any township or in any place, the shops of businesses owned by foreign nationals are vulnerable, because these people, they don't see an opportunity to go and live. So it's not that the foreign nationals are a problem in the country or they're taking out jobs. All these needs their own too. So we need to be somehow cognizant of the fact that our government, and when I say government, I don't want to limit it to the ruling party, but I want us to broaden the scope to include the exhibition. That they should also acknowledge the fact that for us to stop this violence or this acts of violence in the country, we need to work together. We need to solidize as a public. However, if the driving force is to become the government, how can the government drive this? Firstly, it's by coming with concrete policies on how to create an enabling environment for young people to flourish in terms of if they want to open their business, if they want to seek employment, as well as some of the policies to assist what we have said just now with regards to the health sector, and many other public services which are in disarray because of lack of funding, and as well as the challenges of making sure. I can just put it in as maladministration, is at the content of other dysfunctionalities in government.
And sadly, the migrants that are in the country are indicated that only 7% of them make up the total population of South Africa. They are hardworking, ordinary working class people who are trying to better their own situations. And we know, we can't only apportion the blame to local South African criminals. There are probably criminal elements in the migrant population as well. But by and large, they are hardworking and they do make the economy turn in the informal sector. That being said, it also indicates to us that there's a lot of pent-up anger and frustration amongst South Africans, and this is due to non-delivery by government. How do we turn the situation around? How do we live in peace and harmony with our migrant community? Because migrants are not unique to South Africa. This is now a global trend.
Yes. I'm glad that you just mentioned that we as a country, we are what is an alienation, to borrow from the Minister of Intelligence, Patricia Mapuda, who said that we are very alienation, and this is, you can see this from the actions of violence and protests and all those things. But having said that, we are saying that the migrant community in South Africa, not all of them are only in a formal sector, other than in the formal sector, also engaging in businesses and all that. But there is also an element, the point that you said last week, that there are drug dealers who are Nigerian. There are drug dealers who are also from other places, as much as there are drug dealers who are African. So we cannot just say, we cannot just paint all foreign nationals. They must go, they are criminals, Nigerians are drug dealers, human traffickers and all that. That is a wrong stereotype that South Africans that are targeted in foreign nationals, in particular Nigerians, who are at the moment seeing that they are targeted. So to answer your question on how can we turn things around, it is not only between the head of the South African government or us South Africans in general to solve this. It's something that requires the Pan-African approach, in which the continent itself can somehow try and introspect and have a conversation with one another. Rather than blaming this on South Africa, can we then look at situations across the continent? The people who are here in South Africa, they are not here because they want to be here, but because the conditions they form, they are so difficult. Somalia is a war zone. In Nigeria, the economy is not doing well, and the unemployment is also high. And other parts of Africa, there is also conflict. There is a number of people that, whether it's terrorism, civil war, or anything of that sort. So for us to solve this problem, we need to have a conversation as Africans, not only as South Africans. So how can we then solve our problems as a continent? And also, maybe we need to comment on the timing of these events. We have just signed a state continental agreement as a continent. And last week, there was a world forum, taking place, wherein African leaders were invited to come and engage on how to improve on the economy. And then we have such them trying to derail this process. And the ANC or the Minister of Intelligence was corrected by saying that there might be a step for fueling this event. However, you cannot just actively say that, but you can also look at the government's unwillingness that have been saying that of solving this issue over the years. So how do we then turn this thing around? Number one, I said, let's have an African approach, which means it's not only a national approach that are focused on South Africa, but it's an approach that focuses on the continent as a whole, rather than just limiting South Africa. But that's one thing that you can do there. Secondly, the government must try now to accommodate foreign nationals by making sure that they come illegally in the country by somehow reworking on the visa processes, because it's so hard for foreign nationals to get to South Africa, whether for businesses or asylum seekers. The government has made it very, very difficult for foreign nationals.
Okay.
So
All right,
Yes,
let's go for an ad break. We know without a doubt that Home Affairs is in a mess. The state health institutions are in a mess. Infrastructures are crumbling all around us. So government needs to get its house in order. There clearly are no easy answers to this issue around xenophobia. Let's hope common sense prevails and we can live in peace and harmony. But that also means that lots and lots of hard work needs to be done. We'll go for an ad break, and when we come back, we'll look at the issue on femicide. Welcome back. Sandile Ibrahim Malloy is a political analyst. He's here to talk to us about, obviously, the recent spate of xenophobic attacks on foreigners. And now we're going to look at the issue on femicide. Ibrahim, again, madness seems to be prevailing. And we have, all of a sudden, we know that this has been a problem in our country, possibly in the rest of Africa. Why is this ugly issue rearing its head once again? Is it the high levels of frustration in the country? Do we equate it directly with the issue around unemployment, etc.?
Okay, thank you. I think the issue of the femicide, it also boils down to the fact that our government is stressing for the government, because at the end of the day, the government is the one who comes up with the law and controls that the services are up to the one can connect. So with the issue of femicide, we can also extend it to the vulnerability children who are being who are being killed. So the issue of women in Africa now, we have a happen to what 2 weeks back, but the body was found last week on Monday when the guy was that he made it. So the issue cannot simply put down to unemployment or
is it, Ibrahim, I'm wondering, we can't only blame unemployment, we can't always only be pointing fingers at government, but the issue of alcoholism and drug addiction, isn't that a big part of the problem?
Yes, I was actually coming to that. I was saying we cannot solely blame the government for everything that's happening in the country. We have a number of things. Number one, there is a high use of alcohol and drugs in the country among young people, and also among the general the public. So one of the things that we can look at with regards to femicide, and also the person who made that women in Quintan, that person was not drunk. He was a victim of mine. Yes, we know that the guy who raped that we call a future suspect on Monday, who raped a small girl in Ross last year, he was under the influence of drugs, or he was found in possession of drugs. So we cannot only limit the problem to government, but we can also attribute this, number one, to the use of drugs and all that in the country. So, and also the issue of masculinity. I think there is this problem in men in nature that I won't say it's inherent in men, but it's an issue that is becoming a serious one. In that women, they were told, never dress like this, don't walk at night, don't do this, don't do that, so that you can be safe. But even when a young girl is visiting the bathroom in a clearly safe environment or place, she is targeted. Even the young girl going to the post office to collect a parcel, she still became vulnerable. From a man who was sober, who was not drunk, we believe because he was a threat at that time. So it's an issue of masculinity. I think men, as of men, we should have a good conversation on what.
Do you believe, Do you believe that more educational programs need to be rolled out to our boy and girl children, obviously from a very, very early age, about mutual respect, about respecting the opposite sex, and to treat them as equals, and perhaps conscientize our youth about the dangers of drug abuse, and also I think underpinning all of that is respect of the opposite sex as well.
I absolutely agree with you. But I think the issue is that we are a violent nation, if you have noticed that. We are quick to look at the Western case, for instance, in the case that you have high murder rates, despite the fact that you have deployed the army. You still have the high murder rate. You still have a number of hijacking or robberies and all that. So there's some kind of lawlessness in the country. Like you have said, that we need to somehow inculcate certain values in young boys and girls.
Look, undoubtedly, Ibrahim, sorry for the interruption, undoubtedly, it seems as if our psyche as a South African nation has been very badly damaged. Perhaps we need to get to the root of the problem to understand what's going wrong. Maybe it was very high expectations post-apartheid. It may be that, it may not. But I think we need to take a long, hard look at ourselves, and all parties, civil society, government, political parties, everyone needs to get together, and we need to decide, we need to understand, we need to come up with a plan of how we heal as a nation, how we respect each other, and how we truly become that rainbow nation that we boasted about a couple of years ago, post-apartheid. But let's move on and wrap up on the issue around Mugabe. Now that he's passed on, post-Mugabe and the current state of Zimbabwe at the moment, unemployment rates are high there, higher than ever before. What do you believe is going to play out now that Mugabe is passed on? People are also saying not much has changed in Zimbabwe. As a political analyst, what's your take on the situation?
The issue of Mugabe in Zimbabwe is that if state that Mugabe, there is a contested data on Mugabe. Others have seen as a liberator and a hero, but others have seen this guy as a tyrant, as a dictator, someone that has turned Zimbabwe into more troubles than ever before. But let me put on also answer your question. When Maputo or Ga was removed in power, people thought maybe things will change. But rather, Mapucheism multiplied. So in the case of Zimbabwe, we have witnessed the same problem. There is also Mugabeism, even in the aspect of Mugabe. Mugabe himself is a system, is a political system that has somehow collapsed the Zimbabwe economy, but only that, it has silenced the people's voices. With recent demonstrations in Zimbabwe, people say, no, enough is enough. We want change. The government responded by killing, by attacking people, using repression. So the system of Mugabe himself, in the time that he spent in power, he somehow created a system that, if you were to change the situation in Zimbabwe, you have to undo that system. So Mugabe is continuing with Mugabe's leaders by responding with repression whenever being criticized. So it will take Zimbabwe, it will take the traders, and it will take the entire continent, anything the globe, to somehow change the situation in Zimbabwe. One of the leaders of Mugabe, on the positive side, is that he left Zimbabwe with an educated population. It's one of the most educated populations in the world, or in the continent. So Zimbabweans now have to introspect, ask themselves, what kind of a country we want, close to Mugabe. As we bury Mugabe, can we bury our problems in Mugabe? Or can we bury that Mugabe is doing? within the garden.
Unfortunately, Ibrahim, that's where we have to leave it. Obviously, the rot runs very deep. It's been years and years and years of corruption, and that's why Zimbabwe finds themselves in this situation. And it probably will take years and years and years of cleaning up before the country can stand on its feet again. Thank you indeed, Ibrahim Moloi, for your analysis on all of these issues, and have yourself a great day. Assalamu alaikum to you.
Thank you for having me. Thanks.
Let's go for an ad break. Don't forget, when we come back, we're going to be talking about the suicide rate in the country. It seems to have reached alarming proportions. What is the answer? Maulana Mubarak will come in and talk to us. And then we also have a young lady. She's a chartered accountant by profession, but she's going to talk about a wonderful concept, and that is know your worth and then ask for it. And welcome back. I have a lovely young lady in studio with me. She is a chartered accountant by profession. She started her own business, which she is the CEO of Horizon Accounts and Business Coaching. Recently was awarded the winning influencer, the current winning influencer, and she also goes by the tagline, know your worth and then ask for it. So we're going to unpack all of that and see how we can get to the next level as women, not only in business, but in any profession that you might be in. Homotso Moyo is the lady we're talking about, and she's in studio to share her wisdom with us. Good morning. Welcome to the program.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Lovely to have you here. Now, you were awarded, or you had the award of winning influencer. What's that all about? And does that take you to the next level?
Yes, definitely. For me, it was a huge change because I'm one person. I love motivating people, and I love people. I always make sure that people realize their worth and their potential, and that every person has got a great potential and a great destiny. So being an influencer for me, it goes way beyond that. I want everyone to reach their maximum growth, maximum potential. So a lot of people recognize that. And yeah, I was nominated, and greatly, I was actually awarded for it. So yeah, that was actually the main purpose, for just people to realize their maximum potential and great destiny. Yeah.
What was the criteria for you to have been nominated and then having achieved the award?
Okay, firstly, people had to nominate you, and then they send you an email saying that, listen, you've been nominated for most influential businesswomen. Do you accept?
Possibly even without your knowledge.
Yes.
You were nominated without your knowledge.
Without my knowledge, yes. So they send you an email, and then when you accept, that's when you go through the process where they check your social media pages and they ask questions with the person that nominated you on why are you nominating this person, and get 2 or 3 witnesses to actually witness everything.
Quite a process, and quite a compliment as well.
Yeah. So they actually follow your whole social media profile and how people respond, how respectable are you to the community, what benefit do you add. They look at quite a whole lot of stuff. So yeah.
You're not a coach, a motivational speaker and coach per se, as you know, your regular coaches out in the marketplace. You are slightly different.
Yes.
You are a chartered accountant by profession. You worked in the corporate world for a while. You then saw a gap in the market and you decided to start up your own business.
Correct.
Talk to us about all of that, and has that change been good for you?
Yes, it has actually. I'm working in the corporate for about 2 years under a certain company, and I just saw a gap that it's male dominated, and not a lot of young people are in that industry. It's middle age towards old.
Chartered accountants.
Yeah, because it takes forever to actually follow that profession. So I felt like, okay, fine, let me be the first. I might not be the first, but let me be the first, you know. And for me, it has been quite a journey. especially because there's so many forces that will try to bring you down. So many people will try to want to bring you down. But you just always have to stand out and just be persistent.
When you say people, forces wanting to bring you down, it's not deliberate on their part that they want to knock you down. It's really about possibly the old boys club, people in business circles, in corporate circles. If I do business with you and I recommend a friend or someone, then you would rather go along with me than go with an unknown entity like Khomotso. So it's not deliberate or directly, or you can't take it personally. It's just the way the industry works.
Definitely.
But it's up to the new upcoming breed of young professionals to try and change that mindset.
But it's very difficult. It's very difficult because a mindset is something that, I don't know, it's like it's locked. Once someone has a certain mindset, it can take forever to actually change that mindset. So, yeah.
All right, you saw this gap. Let's understand what is the gap that you saw. You were in a male-dominated environment, middle-aged, possibly white males, and you needed to change. What is the change that you have brought about in your own life and hopefully opening the door for other young professionals?
For me, it has to be being a very young African woman standing out in the market above older people, and they don't trust you because they think you're still immature, you're not well groomed, you're not well experienced, but not knowing that we actually gain experience along the way. Yes, we can, study, and it's actually advisable to study, but one of the realest lessons that one learns, it's actually taking action, along the way, your real mistakes, picking up from all that. So those lessons are more greater than in a classroom. So, yeah.
We pride ourselves here in South Africa. Never mind all the issues that we have, the xenophobia issues, femicide, which I discussed in the first interview, unemployment, state institutions really being short-funded, underfunded, overworked, whatever the issues are. But would you agree there's still amazing opportunities in the country? And as women, we do know that we are discriminated against. So that's a big statement I've thrown at you. There's issues in the country, but they're great opportunities. And what do we as women, how do we own our spaces?
We are actually very privileged as South Africans, actually, because most people, when they want to invest or do business, they come to South Africa. And a lot of business people make a lot of money in South Africa more than in other countries, which shows to us that we need to take our country really serious because we've got resources that other countries do not have, but we're just so blinded that we cannot actually move forward with this. And if we can just stand up and actually open our eyes and go for these opportunities, because I run with a certain vision that says we need to employ the economy. We are the saving grace, or we are the lifeblood of the economy. We as women, we as young people, we are the lifeblood of the economy. If we can just employ the economy, we can actually do greater change, create more opportunities. Not that they are not opportunities, they are, but we can actually, expand the pipeline and make even more great opportunities for the future generations to come.
Unemployment is exceptionally high. The political analyst in the first interview suggested that it's sitting at above 30%. You're a graduate. Easy for you to say, let's employ the country, let's create the employment opportunities, because you have obviously the necessary qualifications. What do you do with those people who are dropouts? And a large number of unemployed youth are dropouts. They don't have a formal qualification or a formal education. How do we address that problem?
What I would say is, with the people that do have the necessary qualifications, raise up your business to at least a medium standard or a medium level, and then start or establish programs such as your internship programs, your learnership programs, or little mentorship programs where you can take those dropouts, people who are not really uneducated but don't have the enough skills, take them in, give them a monthly stipend and train them. And at the end of the training, give them a certification, something that can certify them and say that you are qualified as whatever, so that they can use that certification and expand in their own world. So I would highly recommend small businesses and medium-sized enterprises to start these certain programs, because it's less cheaper than universities and colleges, because some families cannot afford that. But it's up to us to look for a gap and to initiate certain things like that. Yeah.
And the reality is not all of us can go to university and technicons, for example, because we can't have a surplus of doctors, lawyers and accountants. Sure. There are other sectors of the community and industry that needs to be filled as well. And we need to see what those gaps are and then employ, educate, upskill those youth to fill those gaps.
Yeah, a lot of what you just mentioned, it's actually vitally important. We always look at the bigger professions like your doctors, your lawyers, and we undermine smaller professions. Not that they're small, but we undermine other professions like your furniture,
cabinet makers, for example.
Your carpenters, plumbers, yes. We actually undermine those. But when we look at it in a bigger eye, without plumbers, some of us can't actually open up a sewage ourselves. So we need to open up sectors in every dimension, small or big, but a profession is a profession, a job is a job, a skill is a skill.
We need to change the mindset of South Africans. I guess because we were trapped in apartheid. We weren't given opportunities then. When the shackles of apartheid fell, we just really, what we wanted to do is all young people wanted to attain tertiary education, because then, as far as we're concerned, we've arrived. And I guess that's why there's this hunger for tertiary education. But let's go for an ad break. We'll pick up from where we've left off and continue this discussion. We do hope you'll stay with us to continue this discussion. And later on in the show, Maulana Mubarak will be coming in to talk about how to avoid taking that final plunge into suicide. I'm talking to Khomotso Moyo. She is a businesswoman. She's a chartered accountant by profession. She is now running her own little business, been at it for over 3 years, and she says she just started seeing the results, true results, towards the end of last year. That was a big risk you took. I mean, here you were in corporate earning a top salary. You decided that you needed to do something different. You saw this gap in the market. Let's just explore that gap a little more. And why did you take such a big risk? Were you afraid at any point, thinking, I'm giving up a top corporate job, I may go hungry for a couple of months?
That was a huge risk, actually. But yes. The company that I was at, there was a possible retrenchment, so that's what pushed me. That if I do get retrenched, at least I would have started, but it didn't happen. But yeah, a few months did go by, and there was a little bit of money shortages because of all the expenses that I had. Because when you start, basically, you have to spend a lot. You know, the expenses are way higher than your income.
Tell us about the idea of, your vision of what you're going to set up as a chartered accountant, but something with a difference that people would buy into.
Okay, for me, it had to be what I mentioned earlier about raising up other businesses, especially financially, because I am in the financial sector, to basically liberate the economy. But it's quite tough because, as we mentioned about the state of the economy, it's very intense. So yeah, that was one of the main visions that I had run with, that I wanted to raise a whole lot of financial reporters or financial accountants, because I felt the financial sector for me was a huge and a broad thing.
So how did you canvas for business?
I used a lot of street marketing, and my social media pages has to be number one that I used in terms of constant posts and making little small flyers and hitting the streets of Johannesburg. So for me, that has to be one of my top 2 things that I did.
So what was unique about your service that I couldn't or wouldn't get from another or any other multitude of financial advisors on the market?
I mixed my services with impact and influence, because I wouldn't want you to just receive my services, but I normally have conversations with my clients that, what is it that you want to do? Just free, impactful conversation, and I would just motivate them, influence them, and they would always feel comforted, they'd feel, wow, I'm worthy, I belong. So for
what
me,
did
that
you
has
do?
to
Did you
stand
look
out.
at their books and say, this is where you're going wrong?
Yeah.
This is what I suggest you do. This is where and how you take your business to the next level.
Yes.
What more did you do? Because I could get that service from anybody else.
The business coaching added a lot, to be very honest. With the accounting services, sometimes I would add plus free business coachings. So I'd sit down with you for like 3 days max and give you a manual.
At no cost.
At no costs, yeah. So that added to the company a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Your CSI pay back into the community, what would that be? And I know you're a one-man operation, but I guess, you've been in the corporate space and you are all about empowerment and upliftment. I mean, your tagline says, know your worth and then ask for it. Isn't that being a bit arrogant?
A lot of people say that. Or being overly confident as well. But I've learned to not, worry about what people say, as long as it's a yes from me. If I feel like it's not being arrogant and it's not being overly proud, then it's okay, because people will talk either way. Whether it's not too arrogant or it's too arrogant, they're always gonna have something to say. So for me, it was just.
So let's just understand, know your worth and then ask for it. I may think I'm worth millions. How do I ask for it? How do I sell myself? How do I make people sit up and take notice?
The value that you put on yourself. Everything needs to be valued. You need to put value in what you do. For example, if I can give you an example of water or petrol, for example, they're just ordinary natural resources, but because they've got so much value in it, or like diamonds, it's like plain rocks basically, but they've got value in it. So if I come to you and be like, listen, here's a diamond, you're just going to look at the value, you'd be paying millions for it, but it's just a simple rock, but it's got value on it. So I'd always advise that put value in what you do, because people will pay for value, not for who you are.
And value is tied in with respect, is it not?
Definitely.
Dignity.
Yes.
Your approach to people. What are you doing to empower other young people in and around your community?
Yes, I'm running a women's empowerment where I take young girls, medium aged, if that's the correct word, and
Medium age being?
Is it medium aged? And I actually empower them.
You mean young girls 18 and
Yes,
above?
and
Okay,
above, yes.
brilliant.
And actually empower them in a sense of self-respect, self-dignity. You do not have to lose yourself to gain positions. You don't have to sacrifice, your body to get to the next level. This is how it's done. You can take the longer route, but as long as you still have yourself, So I do that a lot monthly. On a monthly basis, where we just gather up at parks, like just a normal environment, and we talk. We just talk on such issues, or we go out, because I've also partnered with Nedbank as well recently, and we just target the community and just get the message across to
Positive messages, and for people to start believing in themselves.
Exactly.
You can be anything you dream you can be, and
Definitely.
that's not cliche, that is true.
That's the reality.
It's about believing in yourself. What were the greatest challenges for you and learning curves along the way? You are now a success.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
But there were a lot of challenges and the learning curves.
One of my biggest challenges, I would say, besides the financial part, I would have to say having to break through in a male-dominated society. That for me had to be one of the breaking down moments. And
As a black woman.
As a black woman, yes.
Bad enough that you're a woman, but you're a black woman.
Exactly. So I would present, but then people would just shut me down, all because of, the youngness and the womanness, and I have not even finished my presentation. So I had to use another strategy, and that would be, for me, I won't lie, I use social media a lot. I would post a lot of videos. So instead of them viewing me like live, face to face, they would actually go on my Facebook page and they'd be like, okay, but we actually rejected you, but what you're saying it's of value, it's of content, can you come back again? So that only happened probably after a year, but yeah, I had a lot of mail rejections, big company rejections, all because of just that small little petty issue. So yeah.
I spoke about femicide in my previous interview this morning. You have got lots of contacts and connections in the corporate world. You've been there, done that. You're now uplifting young girls and young women. Your take on femicide, and what's the strong message you give to our boy children?
Respect. Know and understand the definition of respect. Because if you're unable to respect your own mom, then there's no way you're going to be able to respect another female. So everything for me, it starts at home. Before it goes out to the community, before it goes out to any relationships, please start respecting your own mom at home.
Earlier on, I spoke about young people chasing tertiary education because we were deprived for so many years, over 50 years, as black people. And they believe having a degree will allow them to have arrived, so to speak. Not everyone can go into tertiary. What is your message to them about that issue? Because they kind of almost compare themselves to someone that's come out of university. True. I'm not good enough, I'm not intelligent enough, I've not arrived, no one's going to respect me, etc.
Well, as much as education is important, but it is not the pathway to success. Because there are a lot of successful people that have stories that say that they did not have money to go to college or university, but they had the skill.
Education is not necessarily having a degree.
Yes.
Living life, going through the angst of a difficult life is an education itself.
Yeah. So normally what I would say is that what is it that you have? What skill do you possess? You don't necessarily have to take your lungs out just to go to school. But one of the greatest billionaires or millionaires or successes, they just took a simple idea with the smallest skill that they had and they perfected it. You just have to perfect your craft and make people pay for the craft that you're doing. Find people to pay for what you're doing. And then if you would love to go to university, you can go at a later stage, but it is not necessarily not the pathway to success or to your destiny.
So bottom line, tertiary education or not, it's self-belief, self-love.
Yes.
Thank you for being with us on the show.
It was a great
Lots of future
pleasure.
success to you.
Thank you so
and
much.
continue touching lives in a positive way.
Thank you so much.
That was Khomotso Moyo talking about taking a gap in the market, making something of herself and touching lives of other young people in her midst. Don't go away. We'll be talking with Maulana Mubarak about suicide. Welcome back. The final segment of the show this morning. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. It was Suicide Prevention Day yesterday, the 10th of September, and SADC tells us they're the South African Depression and Anxiety Group based here in Sandton, Johannesburg, and they are suggesting that their lines are inundated with calls from very, very young people, even young children. The youngest child that has committed suicide over the last while was a 6-year-old child. The issue has become really very, very worrying. We know that we live in very troubled times. We are bombarded with all sorts of news, dark, depressing news, fake news. There's a lot of crises in everyone's lives. And sadly, very sadly, some people do resort to suicide. So in keeping with Suicide Prevention Day, which happened yesterday, we have Maulana Hussein Mubarak Mbonambi in studio to talk about why suicide should never be an option in anyone's lives. Assalamu alaikum, welcome to the program.
I first like to begin by hymning the praise of Almighty, and blessings and salutations be upon our Master, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. I like to greet the viewers at home with the greetings of peace. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Firstly, yesterday, it was the 10th of September. It was the World Prevention Day. So
World Suicide Prevention.
World Suicide Prevention Day. Actually, the awareness was to raise the awareness with regards to that suicide can be prevented. It's not always the end of the road that a person is faced with any problem. Now is thinking that maybe suicide might be the way out. Sometimes a person might be seeing it like it's the end of the road, while it's the beginning of the road actually.
We as Muslims know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala instructs us in the Holy Quran not to take a life, anyone else's life, but our own lives as well, because life is precious. It is a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But when a person, depending how gravely and darkly they look at their problems, I think they sometimes beyond reasoning, are they not? And then they believe in their minds, in the very dark place that they're in, that the only way out of this hole, this very dark pit of misery that they're in, the only way out is suicide. How do we, as fellow Muslims, and yourself, Maulana Mubarak, as a religious leader, a community leader, get this very strong and pertinent message across to people that are going through lots and lots of problems, and they may possibly be considering suicide? We can never know that. We only know about it after the fact, after the event, after the person has taken their lives. We then sit back and think, what could I have done? What should I have done to have prevented this?
One, a person have to think that when God created him, there was a purpose. And with regards to that, a person always bearing in mind that purpose, also he must think to himself or herself that while he or she is thinking of committing that suicide, whatever problem a person is faced with, there are people here outside who are faced with such bigger problems than that. So a person must take to consideration. They say, normally if a person is thinking, maybe I'm just making an example with the person who's barren, the person who cannot get children. Now that person will be thinking to herself that I'm not getting children. There are people outside, let alone not getting children. They do not even have a partner that they can get their children. A person can be seeing someone maybe who's saying I'm suffering. There are people who don't even have a shelter, a place to stay. So a person must always look at the bigger picture, that there is possibilities, that there are people who are facing problems that are bigger than that. And one thing for sure, God will definitely not put a burden that is more than you can bear.
Absolutely. And Allah tells us also in the Holy Quran that with every hardship comes ease.
Yes.
So I will not give you a burden greater than you can bear.
Yes.
But also with every hardship, you're not going to be
easiness.
in hardship for the rest of your life.
Yes.
The hardship will be lifted. But as community leaders, as Maulanas in our community, do you believe that we should be talking more and more about suicide prevention in our communities? Or we kind of just take it for granted that we as Muslims, because we are commanded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to treat life is precious, we shouldn't be taking our own lives, that it's not a question that needs to be explored? Do you believe in this day and age, as community leaders, we need to talk more and more about the scourge that we are seeing playing out in the Muslim community as well, sadly?
It is the unfortunate that even Muslims, you do get the people who are committing suicide. Islamically, on an Islamic perspective, obviously it is not permissible for a person to commit suicide, but obviously no one would go and commit suicide, there is a problem before that. There is a reason why a person might even be thinking of that committing suicide. So I think it is a matter of mass that people, the awareness must be raised amongst our communities. We must speak about these things, that it's not the end of the road. It's not where a person is saying, now I cannot do, maybe that is the last kick. That is the ending actually of his problem, and the good is to start, and a person is just stopping it by committing suicide. So a person must never give up.
Are we as a community letting down other members in the community? Are we perhaps very closed off? Is it because we don't discuss these type of issues? Is it because we've become perhaps too westernized, maybe too afraid or possibly too proud to ask for help? And there are different reasons for why people commit suicide. It could be dire financial problems. It could be breakdown in relationships. It could be that the person has such a low self-esteem that they believe they're not worthy of love. No one's ever going to reach out to them. So there's a multitude of issues that are playing out here. And maybe the people that are contemplating suicide just believe there's nowhere to turn to.
In short, actually there's two sides here. One is the perpetrator, the person who's committing suicide, and the other is the person who maybe that person who committed suicide was involved, the reason why, the person who's behind that. Now the person, the individual, if maybe you told your friend, this is what I'm going through, and your friend is telling everyone, now a person will end up committing suicide just
out
because
of shame and embarrassment.
Yes, that now everyone knows about it. And this is something that a person needs to take out, obviously, from his chest, that this is the problem I'm facing, this is the problem. He needs to speak about it. Besides that, speaking about the problem also is like the therapy itself.
Absolutely. You as a Maulana, if people come to you in really dire straits and they start talking with you, are you able to pick up that their situation is so far gone that there is a possibility this person is so vulnerable, he or she may commit suicide? Are you in a position to do something?
What normally is best to do if someone is faced with any difficulty, first thing is to try to remove his mind or her mind from where he or she is that particular moment, that he frees himself up. Then only then after then he starts speaking, then you get the core of the problem. Sometimes a person might look at something thinking this is the problem, while that is not the problem. The problem is behind that. Maybe the reason behind that, why he came here, that is what brought him, not what he sees as the problem. So if a person's mind is shifted away from where the gazes are, a person is looking where he is, and shifted away from that, maybe that also plays a big role.
As a community, as community leaders, when we have something like this playing out in our community, is this being talked about at the member? If not, should we start talking about it, very especially knowing that the stressful, traumatic times we're living in? Because even if we lose one life through suicide, it's one life too many.
Yes.
Because the rest of that circle is impacted negatively for the rest of their lives.
You see, it is been spoken about in the members, but on a smaller scale. On different places, like people who are involved in speech and drama and those things, different sport, karate, soccer, tennis, they do tell them about all these things, that they do speak about suicide, that encouraging people that they must not, this thing can be prevented. A person there is always a way out for everything. So I think people, they should start speaking about it more, including also in the members, and also in the posters must be made, like the awareness must be created, that a person must never feel he or she is alone.
Okay, we're going to talk some more about this issue right after the ad break. This very dark issue, which is suicide. And of course, it was Suicide Awareness or Suicide Prevention Awareness Day yesterday. Well, there you have it. We are talking to Maulana Mubarak about suicide prevention and what do we as Muslims, how do we change our thinking about this issue? Don't go away. We'll be back with you in a minute or two. And welcome back. It was Suicide Prevention Day yesterday, International Suicide Prevention Day. And I have Maulana Mubarak in studio to talk about the importance and the beauty of life and why we as Muslims should shift our minds from the thought of suicide. Let's talk about the importance and the beauty of this gift, this amana from Almighty Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, and that is life.
You see, Allah Ta'ala, when He creates, obviously everything when it's done for a purpose. So when a person is created, there is a certain purpose a person that needs to fulfill in his life. Now, a person have to, whether a Muslim or a non-Muslim, a person have to bear in mind that there is a reason between, of his creation. Now, a person, if he is having goals that a person want to achieve, a person must see to it that how to reach that whatever goals a person did put in his life. So what is very important is that a person recognizes this gift and this amanat and this trust that God has given him, that a person needs to see to it that he uses it correctly. A person must be using it, not abusing it. There's different ways a person can be abusing this bounty of life. So a person, each and every individual needs to see to it that a person is utilizing his life correctly. Obviously, other thing, people, they normally look at spiritual wellness. Also, a person, health-wise, a person needs to be eating, obviously, healthy food, exercising also. With regards to spiritual wellness, a person needs to have maybe like some sort of spiritual person who he speak to with regards to whatever problems or whatever things he's thinking. A person must be having a person who's, if you're having a problem, you're speaking to. If this is happening, a person who's able to read your mind. So like that, a person, before even thinking about suicide and all that, a person will be able to catch from you that this is the road that you are paving.
Are there certain signs that we should be looking out for? And if we pick up on those signs, perhaps then talk to the person, maybe create an intervention, get a spiritual leader like yourself in, and inshallah reach out to the person's iman to not take that final step, not to think that there's absolutely no hope. And it's fine for you and I to be sitting here and talking about it very distantly. We really don't know what's going on in the person's mind. Oftentimes it is said that people who commit suicide have actually gone beyond the limits of reasoning. They can't reason any longer. They're not thinking rationally because they're so caught up in the depths, absolute depths of their despair that they don't think clearly anymore. And we that are left behind are angry. We obviously are very, very anguished that our loved one has committed suicide. But at the same time, we're very angry and we think that the person has done it to punish us for the rest of our lives.
So there is an organization called the World Health Organization. According to their statistics, they saying that currently the statistics of suicide, they like in every 4 minutes there's someone who's killing himself, and like 3 seconds, there's someone who's attempting to commit suicide. Now, taking into consideration that a person can be seeing that this is happening almost each and every time. So there is different things that can be seen from a person, that there is a possibility that this person is not good. One is that you'll see a person normally most of the time, he want to be alone. If you do not want to be alone, we're not saying most of the times, like normally he forces himself to be with people. You can see a person who's forcing himself, even though he's on the environment where he's with some other people, but still he's keeping quiet, he's not speaking. You can see that person is forcing himself to be in that environment. Actually, he's trying to run away from being alone. You're seeing a person, sometimes maybe it's just sitting alone. Most of the times it's sitting alone. Obviously, that might be the signs that a person is having some problem. Then a person, obviously, that problem might be leading also that putting that shaitanic thought in the person's mind that the person might be committing suicide also.
And sadly, you can't even jump to that conclusion. Yes. You know, I can't look at you and think you're very quiet and you've been very distant, or your character and personality has changed over the past while, knowing that you've had a lot of problems. I can't jump to the conclusion that you're going to commit suicide, because I'm also afraid that I might put further negative thoughts into your head.
Yes.
What do we do in a situation like this?
So like that, it's best a person to not use these words. Actually, just go to a person. If you're seeing a person, maybe you're thinking that there is a slight possibility that a person is thinking of committing suicide. It's best you speak about first you take out a person, like take him out of that environment wherever he is. In a place where he'll free his mind, maybe take a person for a cup of tea out in a coffee shop or something. Then speak to him, is everything okay? Like, everything is okay. Then a person, you make him open up. A person, most of the people, they open up if you yourself, you're opening up. If I'm going to tell you that, this is what is happening in my life, this is what is happening in my life, then also you'll start to open up to me. Then that is the most effective ways of a person, him speaking out on what is in his heart.
So when you show them that you're sharing some of your issues with them, they'll have that trust in you and think, well, you're sharing with me, let me share also with you what I'm going through. When we hear that people are in a very dark place and they possibly suggest the word suicide, what's the best thing to do? We are not... we don't know how to deal with the situation. We might just say or do the wrong thing to push the person over the edge. Should we be contacting a medical professional, for example, to say, please, we need an intervention. This person is threatening to commit suicide?
Yes, that must be done, actually. That must be done. See, sometimes other people, they cannot speak to people who are close to them, neither a person who I know, because a person is thinking maybe he'll go and tell the whole world, or maybe a person do not want anyone to know about that certain problem a person is facing, because maybe he is thinking that he'll look at me, how is he going to look at me tomorrow? You understand? So that is the best way, that a person either is connecting to some social workers, some health, any different programs. There is different programs that are being that are there for all these things that can be contacted.
And what is the message you giving into your community? How do you broach the issue of suicide prevention in the Muslim community? Because people could perhaps react to you and say, but why are you as a Maulana talking to us as Muslims about suicide? Because we're not supposed to be committing suicide. It is a command by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But given the person's mental frame of mind, we can't say, he or she was wrong to do that. We don't know in just what a dark place that person has been in.
See, they say a person might not know what problems a person is facing until he gets in his shoes. So obviously we outside will be judging a person. Before a person even think of committing suicide, you must bear in mind the pain your friends and your families, your co-workers, the people you are around, who are around with you, the pain that they're going to bear by losing you. Now, if a person will start maybe having that thought, a person need to start speaking about that thing. If a person, there is different individuals. There is three kinds of people. One, you'll get a person who can speak to anyone. He do not mind. He can speak to no one. If you're falling under that category, you can speak to anyone. You need to speak. It needs to come out. If it does not come out from your mouth, from your chest, then there is high possibilities that you'll carry on speaking about it. But if that thing is coming out, then it's easy for you. You might heal. Then there is a second person who need to speak to a person whom he will trust. Also, if you're speaking to a person who you think you trust, that person maybe might solve that problem. A person needs to take to consideration that since he told someone, now it's no longer a secret. If a person is saying, please, this is what is happening, it's a secret, do not tell anyone. It's no longer a secret because you already told someone. Now there is high possibility that person will either tell his friend, make an example with his friend or wife, then a person will collect that puzzle and think, oh, maybe you are speaking about so and so. So then the third group is a person who wants to speak to someone, but he do not want to speak to someone he knows. I'm saying there is chances whereby a person cannot reach out to all these organizations that can assist a person by speaking to a person. Just go to a person maybe in town, just a random person. Tell him what's happening. Tell him, I just want to take this out of my chest. As soon as you're taking it out of, as you're speaking about it, a person must think to himself, feel it as it is coming out, that whatever problem is coming out, and stop thinking about it. It will go away, inshallah.
Ameen. And the wrong thing, when people come to you with these issues, don't ever say to them, oh, get over yourself, or you're being silly.
Yes.
Or don't minimize how the person is feeling. If you're unable to help the person, if you think that you're not going to be saying things that that person needs to hear, words of comfort, words of encouragement, then rather refer the person to an organization. And alhamdulillah, we have so many such organizations. We have Islamic Care Line,
yes.
We have SADC, we have Lifeline. Go to your local masjid, speak to the Maulana, speak to a trusted friend. But try and just bear in mind that inshallah, with your trust and your faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that there can and there will be hope. But at the same time, let us not judge those people who have committed suicide. Let us not judge, and let's make dua for their families.
Inshallah.
Closing words from you?
I would like to to encourage the viewers. It might happen at home that you're sitting there, watching, looking at the TV. That thought of committing suicide was in your mind. I want to tell you that there is bigger picture than what a person is looking at. You might want to stop there, to end your life there. There might be high possibility that this is the end of that problem, and God want to open a new page in your life. So I want to tell the viewers, to encourage the viewers, that it's not the end of the road. A person, if he's having any problem, that a person will lead a person's mind to think about suicide. Do not think that you are alone. There are people around you. On worst cases, not on worst cases, actually this is the first thing that a person must do, to turn to Allah Ta'ala, to turn to Almighty and speak to Almighty and tell him the problems that you facing. Inshallah, it will come down.
Ameen, thumma ameen. And there you have it, a Suicide Prevention Awareness Day happened yesterday, and I think we'll still be having ongoing discussions about suicide in future programs. And we can never know just what a dark place the person is in when they're contemplating suicide. Let's make dua for the Ummah, inshallah, and for those people who have lost loved ones through suicide. Let's not judge them. Let's be there as neighbors, relatives, friends, and the community to support them and let them also know that, inshallah, there is hope for the rest of the community. And on that note, we've come to the end of the show. Shukran for being with us today. As always, I end off by saying take care on the roads. Until the next time, as always, it is Khudafiz from me, Julie Alli.
يا هلا 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 حن قلبي على جمعة الخير هلا حن قلبي على جمعة الخير هلا يا 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 هلا